A lot of you have Black History Month on your mind, but keep in mind, for those of us who are living the B1 life, every month is Black History Month. And that being the case, Black history is being made every day, principally by those of us who are part of Black empowerment. The reason for this evening's address is actually pretty straightforward because there's another date coming up in a couple of months that's more on my mind than the officially claimed Black History Month. And that date happens to be April 26th of this year. Now, why is April 26th important? Well, the main reason that it's important is because that's the date that Bill Cosby was convicted almost 2 years ago. And it stands as a lesson to all of these old Negroes and all of these Negroes who think to themselves that the dominant society loves them and that, oh, they got these white supremacists eating out of their hands and, oh, this wonderful white injustice system just loves them. Those fools, they're finding out the hard way. Some of them are finding out, others, their heads are still too thick. But some of them are beginning to find out, no, these people who have been smiling in your face and ha and he-heing with you and pretending as if they were your buddies, these people never liked you to begin with. And that when the time comes, they're going to break you, and the time always comes. Now, there are ways to insulate yourself from the reach and the pernicious aims of white supremacy. There are ways to try to at least have an infrastructure in place. But what that means is you got to make sure that you have given rise to that yourself. See, when Bill Cosby had the better part of 50 plus years to be able to raise up individuals and put them into positions of authority so that they would be able to protect him when the time comes. So he would have an infrastructure in place ready to defend him, or at the very least insulate him from anybody who would come after him. He didn't think he needed to do that because, after all, this is America's dad, and that went, you can tell that went straight to his empty head. All it took was some white media patting him on the head and telling him how great thou art, and he went right for it. That's what ingratiating itself by flattering, false flattery and empty praise and all of this patting you on the back, insincere compliments. That's white supremacy's stock in trade. Flattery happens to be a primary tool of the white media and white supremacy, coming up to you and telling you, oh, how highly we think of you. They love buttering up those who they intend to take down, because when white supremacy wants to gobble you up, the first thing they want to do is butter you up first. It'll make you a lot more tasty when the time comes. But Bill Cosby figured he didn't have to listen, didn't have to do anything. He figured he was the smartest Negro in the room. What he was trying to do was trying to figure out if he could get the white media to give him some headlines. And so he'll do a couple of meaningless donations to a couple of HBCUs. That way, the next generation of boule bootlicks would tell people how great Bill Cosby was. But the main thing that matters is if you're some black person who really wants to pretend as if you know what time it is, and what it's got to be, the real question becomes, how many other black people are you putting into positions of power? Or are you thinking to yourself, that's too much time, too much effort? Because you see, the Bill Cosbys and the Dr. Dre's and the rest of these clowns, they never seem to think it's the wrong time to put someone from the dominant society into a higher position. They never seem to think it's the wrong time to be giving big campaign donations to the very people who they or their associates and friends will come after you later. Because you see, while people can say what they want about the prosecutor in this case, that Kevin Steele character, they can go ahead and say what they want, and that's fine. You would be within bounds. But my question is, how many of Bill Cosby's associates and friends and hangers-on and what have you, how many of them are familiar with Mr. Steele? How many of the people from how many of his white associates know this Kevin Steele person? How many of his white friends and pals and folks who he had known in the entertainment industry, how many of them were familiar with him? How many people in Pennsylvania legal circles that he was depending on, how many of them were familiar with Kevin Steele? Probably lived in the same neighborhoods as him, went to the same school as him, go to the same church, probably even have familial associations with them. See, while Bill Cosby was busy trying to create his own little echo chamber in his own little bubble and live in his own little world that he thought that he was the god of, well, white supremacy introduced him to the real world. And that's something that all of these hoity-toity think that they got the world by the tail Negroes are finding out. R. Kelly thought that Chicago was his town, but the thing is he don't run it, don't own it, and because there's another dumb Negro who is more interested in chasing drawers of whatever age than he was in making sure that there was an infrastructure in place that was going to be there to insulate and protect them. These guys never make that a priority. While they're busy bragging about how much money they got, and while on the one hand, R. Kelly is busy bragging about how many hoes and clothes he's got, and Bill Cosby is busy perennially wagging his finger at Black America, while they were busy doing that, white supremacy was drafting up these plans for how to take these Negroes down. Bill Cosby's career came with an expiration date. And the only way he would get out of it would be if he had used the money that he had in order to give rise to an apparatus to fight against white supremacy. That's the reason why I keep trying to point out to you guys things like that documentary, The Lobby USA, among others. You see, what happened was the Jews realized that they were in the crosshairs. They realized that there was an entire society that could turn on them and that they were not relying on the goodwill of these white Gentiles who they might have had business dealings with or even been married to. They weren't relying on that. They weren't resting on that. They were being realistic. They were being realistic about the world they lived in and their position in it, their true position. Sure, you can go ahead and hang out with some of these folk who are from outside your group if you want to, and you can go ahead and have a couple of drinks with them. Why, if you think to yourself you want to be laying up with them, well, you're taking your life in your hands. But even so, if you're Jewish, you're still Caucasian. If you're black, on the other hand, you don't even have that much leeway. So if Jewish people have to be careful and are careful to that degree, even though they are nowhere near as hated in the society as black people, how much more careful does a black person have to be? I suppose a better question would be, how much more stupid would a black person have to be if they deny that reality? Well, you'd have to be dumb as Bill Cosby. That's how dumb you'd have to be. But Bill Cosby, he thought he was the smartest guy in the room. I can't have too much sympathy for him, mainly because what the world did we lose with Bill Cosby being put in the hoosgow? What did we lose? We lost this guy who hadn't done a damn thing for us. Oh, the images of a middle-class black family on TV. Yes, but the problem happens to be at the same time that we were seeing the Huxtables on television, what the hell was being done to stop the ramping up of the prison industrial complex? What was being done to fight back against the mass impoverishment of the black community, the continued economic deprivation of our people here in this country? What was being done then? Not anything. So Bill Cosby was chasing headlines. He was busy getting praised by the white media. And what he thought to himself was, I got it all in one sock, but it turned out that he didn't. The lesson to be learned is, it doesn't matter how big you think you are, especially if you happen to come from an out group that is being persecuted in the society, you need friends. You need to be raising up as many black people as possible who are going to be not merely your defense system, but your early warning system too. You would think that these dumb Negroes at some point would realize, ever since freaking Jack Johnson, you would think that they would realize that you need to have as many black folks that you put into these white apparatuses as possible. You should be looking at this as warfare. You're at war with white supremacy. The government, the administrative arm of white supremacy, happens to be the mechanism that's going to be coming after you. And that being the case, you need to undermine the bastards at every turn. And that starts by making sure that you do everything in your power to, at the local level, select your own people, people that you chose, not people recommended to you by the dominant society, but people that you chose, individuals who you already know they got their heads on straight. These are individuals who are not going to be breaking bad on you because you selected them. And because you chose them, since you made them, that means if they do decide that they're going to let some interloper whisper in their ear and tell them, oh, we'll give you a bigger job, something higher paying, all you got to do is turn on your benefactor. Well, you made this fool so you can break him too. That's a lesson that these well-to-do Negroes never seem to learn. They never seem to learn the necessity of making sure that your hand-picked individuals have their levers on the machine. And the reason why is, well, they think they're too cool for school. Look at the arrogance. I mean, it's one thing when you got some dumb clown like freaking Lee Daniels who I am convinced was born with a knee pad. But you got these other Negroes who you would think were smarter than that. Last week, Jason Black was pointing out the absolute insanity, the absurdity of the man who most people, especially those who remember what rap music was from the very beginning, those of us who actually remember growing up with it from its infancy, the man who most of us would consider to be the actual greatest rapper who ever lived, Rakim, here Rakim Allah, as he would like to call himself, is saying that heaping praise on Eminem. Imagine that. You got the guy who actually is, by all standards, especially in historical review, you would consider Rakim to be the best who's ever done it. And yet here this guy is, who for a while you would think that this man was actually proud of being black. Well, it seems he wasn't too proud of it, because here he is elevating some chump, some fool who has been talking grimy about black folks every time that he thinks he can slide a little dig in. Rakim Allah indeed. Allah means God. And I always believed that God was supreme. Well, I guess you learn something new every day. Turns out that there is something more supreme than God. A scrawny little white guy from Detroit who just learned to string a couple of words together. Apparently that's more power. That's grander, bigger, and better and supreme to Allah, or at least to Rakim Allah anyway. But this is what's happening as pressure is being put on white supremacy, as the white media is finding itself getting called out and black people are pushing back because the black media is urging you to. As pressure is being put on the institutions and the apparatuses and the operatives of white supremacy, what's happening is the black bootlicks are being forced to declare where they stand. Everyone's being forced to go on the record because as we turn up the heat, white supremacy's looking at all of his little bootlicks, all of his little fools who've been sitting around with an empty plate waiting for Master to drop some butter biscuits on it. And they're looking at him and going, you need to go out there and say something, somebody needs to tell these niggers that Eminem's the greatest who ever did it. I don't think I need to comment very much about the bastard baby maker epidemic that has led to a whole bunch of these little crack babies running around trying to claim that Eminem was the first one to fill stadiums and arenas. I'm sitting here going, man, I would love to think that these were a bunch of little 10-year-olds talking this garbage. I would love to think these were a bunch of little punks who were born after 9/11 or something, a bunch of little idiots who basically, these clowns just discovered rap music last week. I would like to believe that, but the problem is that some of these fools, they're sitting here and you can tell that these people have been smoking weed for the longest time. You can tell that these idiots don't know the first damn thing. This is what happens when you have an idiot trying to do their impersonation of what they think a smart person would sound like. But for those of us who actually were observing and listening to rap music from its earliest days, we know what the hell the real history is. But what we also know is, unfortunately, in our community, there has never been a lack of some unscrupulous individuals willing to sell out, not even for butter biscuits, just for some crumbs. Is there a little bit of butter residue on the plate, massa? I'll sell my people up the river just for that. Bill Cosby is rotting away in a prison cell tonight, and he's not going to be getting out anytime real soon. Why, the New York Times themselves, just a couple of months ago in December, they were putting up the article about how Bill Cosby has lost his appeal. Yeah, he lost that appeal, all right. He lost his appeal the moment that he decided to prioritize chasing white women's drawers over getting some black people who he had selected into positions to be judges and to get them on those appeals courts. When he decided that it didn't matter to have any sort of influence on those courts, he'd just worry about stacking up his dollars and wagging his finger at black America. He'd worry about that. And as long as he had a couple of white people around him who were saying, "Oh, Bill, we don't mind hanging out with you and drinking with you, especially if you're buying." As long as that was the case, Bill Cosby figured, I'm cool, I'm good. And what he found out now is, no, you're going to need to make sure that your position is secure, and your position is not secure until you make it secure. You can't be relying on anyone other than who you put in there. That's the reason why Harvey Weinstein is not going to be convicted. This was something that I had to explain to a certain individual last week. Harvey Weinstein is not going to prison. He's not going to prison because of the fact that he and his pals were largely instrumental in choosing the very individuals who are going through the motions of judging him right now. A lot of people are going, oh, Harvey Weinstein's going to prison. No, he's not. I'm going on the record with that and been going on the record with that. There's already been the first rumblings out there from some of Harvey Weinstein's would-be supporters and such, basically saying that all these things are lies, all the accusations are lies, these women are liars, they're a bunch of thoughts, model actress wannabes, whatever, who are telling a bunch of lies about him. They wanted him to help their careers, and basically when he would not support their careers henceforth and forevermore, when he decided, hey, I gave you some movie roles, what the world do you want? Because he wouldn't be a perpetual sugar daddy to them. Now all of a sudden here comes this. That's basically the line that's being used. You even got people online saying hope that he sues them when it's all said and done. Yes, how very differently they're acting about Harvey Weinstein than how they acted about Bill Cosby. And how very different the white media is treating Harvey Weinstein than Bill Cosby. But Harvey Weinstein understands the world that he lives in. He was not leaving it up to chance that, well, I've got some money, so I can buy some lawyers. Like, no, forget it. I want to have the lawyers on retainer, and I want to make sure that the judges are also on the payroll. I want to make sure that the politicians who select those judges are on the payroll. Only then can I be assured that if bad comes to worse, if some of my prior indiscretions come back to haunt me, well, at the very least, I know that the individuals who are supposed to be carrying out the process of judging me, well, they're going to judge me real favorably, and I know they will because I chose them for that very purpose. In 2015, when the first notable rape accusation came against Harvey Weinstein, Cy Vance, who was then and still is the DA of Manhattan, he looked at the accusation against Harvey Weinstein, look what the NYPD was saying, and he goes, there's no there. I can't prosecute him on this. This is too flimsy, too weak. I'm throwing it out. And then a couple of months later, Harvey Weinstein's lawyer gives a donation to Cy Vance for $10,000. Now, you don't even have to be a legal scholar to know that that's at the very least suspicious, but the New York State Bar didn't seem to even bat an eyelash at it. And the white media didn't make a big deal of it, and you didn't have any politicians making a big deal of it either. They were on code. As far as they were concerned, well, this is just the way it is. People have a problem with that? Well, people have a problem with things all the time. White privilege keeps on trucking. But the New York Times piece about Bill Cosby, this was celebratory. They were celebrating. This was not an article at all. It was nothing more than an editorial. New York Times revels in the fact that this old Negro who thought to himself that he was America's dad, it took 40 years for white supremacy to go ahead and pull the rug out from under him. I've been teaching you and trying to teach some of you for the longest time that white supremacy believes in jokes that take a long time to pay off. You can say a lot of things about white supremacy, but one of the things you better say is that white supremacy is patient when the occasion calls for it. When it comes to a cruel prank, a cruel joke, that's when white supremacy shows its greatest patience. White supremacy has no problem waiting decades just to pull the rug out from under you. Whenever you see them taking people like that Lizzo woman and putting her on magazine covers, that's white supremacy having a joke at her expense. And of course, her being a shameless attention whore, as far as she's concerned, that doesn't matter. Long as they're talking about me. Yeah, these dumb Negroes, desperate for attention from the dominant society, they never learn. Well, they never learn until it's too late, I should say, but by then it doesn't matter. But the idea that Bill Cosby was getting a pat on the back from the very people who are looking at him and going, when the time comes, we're going to love dancing on your grave. How many of those people who have known Bill Cosby for decades turned on him just like that? How many of them turned on him just like that? And don't expect Bill Cosby to be getting too much support from some of his former black associates. Why should they? Bill Cosby was trying to figure out how to get an in with the very people that they now are hoping they can get an in with. As far as they're concerned, well, Bill Cosby is now out of the way. No honor among thieves, indeed. Now, while Bill Cosby's busy rotting away in a cell somewhere in Pennsylvania, you had no less than Bill Cosby's own defense team who were complaining that the judges on the appellate court clearly had made up their minds before the proceedings had even begun. And that's right, they had made up their minds. Bill Cosby was convicted the moment that he decided that he didn't need to put anybody in those positions to protect him. And now he's dealing with the individuals who he allowed to be there. Now, Bill Cosby actually had excellent grounds to get the case thrown out. You had a juror who blatantly admitted that he thought Bill Cosby was guilty. And what happened was when the judge pretended to, oh, hey, buddy, did you say that you thought that Bill Cosby was guilty and that you didn't believe for a moment he was innocent? This stealth juror, as they say in legal parlance, in legal circles, this stealth juror denied it. Why, Your Honor, I never said such a thing. I am as unbiased as the day is long. Thing to remember about Pennsylvania, there's an old saying about the state of Pennsylvania, that it's Philadelphia in the east, Pittsburgh in the west, and Alabama in between. You need look no further than Scranton's own Joe the Bigot Biden, Jim Crow Joe Biden. That's all. That you need look no farther than him if you want to have any sort of yardstick by which to measure the egalitarianism and color blindness of the average Pennsylvanian. But Bill Cosby, he had good grounds for appeal, at least if you actually had an appellate court that was considering the evidence and not deciding that this is about making a racial statement. But that was not an appellate court. That was a white supremacist rubber stamp committee that was looking at the Cosby appeal. That's what was going on. And the New York Times had a celebratory air about it, saying that the appellate judges cited the fact that the accused juror denied it. It's a fact that the juror denied ever saying that he thought Cosby was guilty. Now, of course, we all know what that is. If this guy sits here and says, well, is it true that you didn't say you thought Cosby was guilty? Well, it's true that I said it. It's not true that I meant it, but it is true that I said it. That's what's going on here. And the New York Times claiming, well, no one else heard the remark. Well, so much for the paper of record. But this is how the white media is framing it. Their job is not to look at this and ask any questions critical of the Cosby conviction. You would think that with a case this complicated over the course of 50 years, that at least some of them, just as a matter of statistical error, some of them would be looking and going, well, there were some inconsistencies with the testimony. And how the world can you have 5 or so women with the exact same story alike in every single detail? That's not possible. There is no way in the world that 5 individuals at 5 different times over five different occurrences over decades, over the course of 20 or so years, they can all have the exact same story, the same in every detail. Now, you know damn well that those people were coached. You know damn well they were. And yet the New York Times is not going, well, we do believe that Cosby's guilty, though you got to admit, seems as if somebody was trying to help the case out. No, as far as they're concerned, this was pure as the wind-driven snow. This is all about validating, not the destruction of Bill Cosby, but the declaration of open warfare on black people, and particularly these black celebrities. Because what's happening is black America is being attacked by proxy. You find somebody high profile, and you demonize him to the hilt. He's going to be standing in as a proxy for the entire black community, especially black men. And you basically take every racist trope that has ever been, along with a few new ones that you ginned up recently. You stick them on this guy, you repeat it nonstop, and you make sure to point out black community, black. Say black as much as possible. We want people to understand, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, this is who it's about. So to Rakim and the rest of these clowns out here thinking that it's cute to be boosting and big up in the very people who are going to be running you into the ground if they haven't already, keep on doing that, man. It's like as soon as these clowns get a little bit of praise from the white media, they start thinking to themselves that they're the smartest people who ever lived. And what makes them so smart? Well, I'm getting some attention from this white media, and that makes me brilliant. You see, other groups like the Jews, they understood that you got to have an apparatus of your own in place. If you don't have your own media, that also means you don't have your own voice. And who's going to push back when your enemies decide to come for you? How easy will it be for the operatives of white supremacy to take you down when the time comes, and the time always comes? How easy is it going to be? Well, a large part of that ease or difficulty is going to depend entirely on how much of a media you have in place that is speaking for you loud enough to be heard. White supremacy thought that they were going to float another Trojan horse to the black community in the form of Kamala Harris. But what happened was the black media, like myself in particular, since September 2017, I had already started banging the drum against Kamala Harris, telling black folks who and what she is, and making sure that when she inevitably ran for president, as I told you she would back in 2017, I told her she's going to run for president. It's as obvious as the nose on her crooked little face. It was obvious that she's going to be going for the presidency. And when she announced, we were ready for her. We crippled that heifer right out of the gate. Thanks to us, that idiot stumbled from day one and never regained her composure. But you see, that only happens when you have a dedicated apparatus in place that is not only willing to speak the truth, but it also has foresight. See, the time to fight Kamala Harris was not January 2019. That was the time to go ahead and raise our voices in unison. But the time to be prepared for Kamala Harris was in 2017. That was the time to actually start the drumbeat and let people know this woman is not our friend and she's coming down the pike. And you better be keeping your eye on her because she's going to be trying to talk to you as if she's one of us, and she is not. She's going to be trying to talk to you as if, oh, you need to trust me and believe me because I am so black, blackety black, black, black. Well, she only is black until she finds that black people are not giving her any political support. Then she goes back to being Asian again. And she's only concerned about black people when she's standing in front of a podium at an HBCU and telling these other black boule bootlicks what they're going to get. Because there's a reason why the white media keeps praising the idea of more money for these HBCUs. Yeah, so we can get more Roland Martins and Kamala Harrises. Because God knows black America needs more of that. We need more shameless sellouts. God knows we ain't got enough. Whatever good the HBCUs might have been able to produce has long since become obsolete. They are largely a cancer on the black community. They're nothing more than a bunch of half-baked party schools. And while you might have a few people there who are like, man, if only we had better institutions, well, we're not going to have better institutions until we give rise to them. It's as simple as that. If you want to have an institution that has integrity, you're going to have to establish it yourself. You are not going to be able to sit back and hope that the likes of Roly Poly and Sheila Jackson Lee and the bunch of other miscreants and degenerates are going to do anything for you. These guys are in it for themselves, just like Bill Cosby. As far as they're concerned, they happen to be the talented 10th. Oh, well, you see, we have powers of intellect far beyond you rank and file Negroes. And if you would just listen to us, yeah, Bill, if we would just sleep around with a bunch of white women, and if we would just be swapping drugs with a bunch of model actress wannabes, and hey, if we just hang around with enough white agents and managers and such, and hey, if we don't do anything to insulate ourselves from the white criminal justice system, because after all, it's about having your pants sagging. The reason that we got so many black men in jail is, well, you can just spot a wrong kid when you see one. And you know, if I'd like for Bill Cosby to go ahead and give us a revival of the pound cake speech now. This would be a good time for him to drag out that old saw. Be nice to hear it now, especially in the position that he's in. We'd have to hear it over a prison telephone, mind you. But it'd still be kind of nice to hear it now, just to see if he'll go ahead and gin that one up for us. Yeah, Bill, you had your pants up right. Your pants have never sagged. Well, except when there was a white woman in the room. But your pants have never been sagging, Bill. And you're the antithesis of all the things you said about them brothers in the hood. But look where you wound up at anyway, Bill. You wound up in the exact same place. Yes, indeed, there is no fool like an old fool. And similar things could be said about the recent, completely unthinking remarks coming from Rakim. You know, if he decides that he's going to be putting on the tap dance shoes like this, and that he's going to try to betray and undermine and otherwise give away and hand off to those who tried to destroy rap music, who tried to destroy one of the greatest cultural inventions that has come from our people, the former slaves of the United States, if he decides that he's going to take part in that, this cultural genocide, to try to erase the accomplishments and the deeds of our people, well, we might have to change Rakim's name to Raccoon. We just might have to do it if he keeps this up, because we have a zero tolerance policy for this kind of behavior. And if he thinks that he's buying himself some goodwill from the dominant society, well, Bill Cosby tried that, and how'd that work out for him? See, I can't get too bent out of shape about the New York Times with its yellow journalism. I can't get too bent out of shape about the white media deciding that they're going to be editorializing with all of this race baiting. That's just the white media doing the white media's job. I can't be surprised or angry at them, too angry at them. I can be disgusted, but not too angry at the white media doing the very nefarious purpose that they were created for. The white media was created in order to be a mouthpiece for the sake of trying to intellectualize and white-splain the racist policies of the United States and the racist activities that take place against us every minute of every day. The white media's job is to justify it. So while we can be disgusted, while we are going to fight against them and fight to diminish their power and ultimately to take them under, at the end of the day, I understand the white media is doing their job. And the black media is going to do its job to push back against the white media's lies. We're going to do our job. But the one thing I am not going to be doing is shedding any tears for the plight of Bill Cosby. He put himself in the trick bag. This is the cost of not having friends. This is the cost of deciding that you don't need to have any black people who are in powerful positions. You don't need to use your advantage to make sure that you elevate other black people. You can just go ahead and go it alone. Because after all, you're going to be colorblind and kumbaya, and you're going to sit around the campfire with Andrea Constant and Kevin Steele and the rest of these thoughts and model actress wannabes that you've had to your hotel or what have you. These are your friends and why you've got money, and that's all that matters. Under white supremacy, even under white supremacy, if a black man's got money, that's all he really needs. And well, they might be able to throw some insults at you or some accusations, but I got money, and well, even under white supremacy, as long as you got money, that's all you need. You don't need a people behind you. You do not need to aggregate resources. You don't need to aggregate numbers. You don't even need a media. You'll just be this one person out there who is depending on his individual wealth and his individual resources in order to fight the collective enemy that is attempting to destroy you. Because if you take a look at the mouthpieces from the old black media, the dead black media, you know, clowns like Charlemagne the Fraud and Angela Rye with lettuce and tomatoes on the side, and DJ Penis Envy, and old man Ebro, whatever the hell his name is. These guys are not on a tear about Bill Cosby. And it's falling down the memory hole. As far as they're concerned, well, I guess it is what it is. Yeah, because the white general managers at their little radio station have told them what the script is, and it's time to move on. And you better not be saying that there was anything wrong with that conviction, and you better not say that's part of an overall pattern, and you better not beat the drum. You might be able to say a one-time throwaway, you know, like Charlemagne said about reparations when he was talking to Kamala Harris. You can do it one time in passing, but after that, you better not do it again. Don't think you're going to make a habit of this black empowerment talk. Yeah, they understand exactly what their job is. So they're not going to be the ones who are actually pointing out that even if you disagree with Bill Cosby, you better understand the race war that's taking place in the courtrooms and how he's being used as a proxy and how this isn't over. This is only just beginning. They ain't going to talk like that. Only the black media will. So you see, those clowns, that's not the black media. You're not going to be able to depend on them. And I know for a fact that there happen to be some of these well-to-do celebrity Negroes, some of these professional athletes who happen to hear the stuff that I say. And for those of you who have just been sitting back and thinking to yourselves that you don't mind if Professor Black Truth speaks to your anger so long as Professor Black Truth does not actually convict you of your sins of omission, you're wrong. The black media does not need the support or any of the buttressing of these well-to-do Negroes. The black media got to where it is without you. That means you don't have the ability to take us under. You don't have the ability to undermine us. This is simply putting you on notice that as you guys get bumped off, don't expect us to be out here holding up any placards, free the next dumb Negro celebrity who white supremacy decides to nail to a cross. Don't expect us to be doing that. While some fools are out there, some idiots, NIMI-nominated producers, are calling themselves waving the flag for Byron Allen. We're not part of the Byron Allen fan club, and we're not part of the Bill Cosby fan club or the R. Kelly fan club. It is not the job of the black media, of intelligent black society, of the B1 Brigade. It is not our job to be on the side of these black celebrities. They better pray that they're on our side. Because the truth of the matter is, if you have not put any resources behind a media that would actually speak in your interest and speak in your defense, then you damn sure are in no position to wonder why they don't speak for you. It don't work like that. Jason has pointed out time and time again, you need resources to fuel a revolution. And it also takes resources to support a media. You want to know why it is that the white media and the Democratic Party are so worried about what's going on in South Carolina? You want to know why? It's because they've been putting all of these massive millions of dollars, money, just media that you couldn't even afford to buy, into the lie that black people are just so gung-ho to get to the polls. But what's happening is when they actually do look at what black folks, especially in South Carolina, are saying, it's a bellwether of what's coming down the road. They're trying to figure out how effective has this black media been at getting black folks on code that we ain't turning out for nothing without tangibles, because it goes beyond the Democratic Party. They understand that this is not about left wing, right wing. It's not about the white Democrats or the white Republicans. It's about black tangibles. They understand that this is beyond just, well, we don't see any candidate in front of us about tangibles. There is an awakening for black people. This is our issue. Our issue are tangibles. And they want to know, how effective has this message been? Has it permeated especially to the black youth? Because the black baby boomers are dying out. And you look at what's happening with the black youth, you look what's happening with Gen Xers and with the black millennials, and what's happening is they're picking up the talking points from the black media. And ain't nobody trying to hear about funding HBCUs. Ain't nobody trying to hear about feminism. Ain't nobody trying to hear about climate change. It's all about those black tangibles. You come up to us talking anything else, you're out of order. And what they see is when they start talking to black folks, especially young black people in South Carolina, what they're finding out is, yeah, the message has permeated and it has taken hold. And your black sororities and fraternities and these civil rights retreads and these pork chop preachers, these pulpit pimps, these pastors who you've had carrying water for you, they're not going to come up to us and tell us that the love of Jesus is some sort of substitute for being able to punish race soldiers who harm us. They're not going to come up to us and tell us that singing Kumbaya with the dominant society is some sort of acceptable substitute for tangibles. There is no substitute for tangibles. There is no substitute for the resources, for the economic resources and the land that our people require. There is no substitute for that. So there's a whole lot of folks getting their wake up call. But for any of those black celebrities and athletes and such out there who, as far as they're concerned, they are somehow separate from all this, and you're more concerned about whether or not the white media or perhaps some white sports agent or some white representative from some talent agency is going to be displeased with you. Since that's where their focus is, that's where their focus needs to stay. Go ahead and keep doing that. And as the white media's managers, these white men who have been committing all of this rape and sexual assault for all these decades, as they are trying to find scapegoats and distractions to keep attention off of themselves, well, any sort of accusation against you is going to be used against you. And the little money that they gave you, well, that won't matter a whole lot because they're going to be front loading the jury with a whole bunch of bigots who are going to be saying, yeah, that nigger did it. I don't even need to hear the evidence. That nigger did it. And don't think, well, I got money, so surely these judges on appeal, I got excellent grounds because the grounds that I'm using for appeal have always been upheld in every other instance. Yeah, but Bill Cosby found out it wasn't upheld when he did it. Money matters, resources matter, but what also needs to be understood is getting your people in positions, using those resources to take control of the machine. That's what it's about. Warfare is not about, as Sun Tzu put it, the wise first do what is necessary for victory, then go looking for a fight, whereas the defeated usually go looking for a fight, hoping to win. You see, that's what happened to Bill Cosby, except he didn't go looking for a fight. The fight came looking for him. And he went into court to do battle, and he was hoping to win. Harvey Weinstein ain't hoping to win. The fix was in from day one. And I've already told you that the worst that's going to happen to Harvey Weinstein, he gets the Jeffrey Epstein treatment. Harvey Weinstein is going to he's going to have a plea deal. If it looks like he's about to be convicted, there's going to be a plea deal getting pulled out. Old Cy Vance will pull one out. That's what's going to happen to Harvey Weinstein. Worst case scenario for him is he gets a sweetheart plea deal. And if by some holy miracle he actually gets convicted, then you already know that the same thing that happened to Jeffrey Epstein is going to go down. Oh, he's going to be out pending appeal. He ain't reporting straight to prison. But there's very little chance of that because Harvey Weinstein did his due diligence. He understood that the time to be ready for a courtroom battle isn't when some idiot DA or when some civil attorney decides to hand you papers. The time to be ready for the law to come after you is way beforehand. And he also understands that he and his brother, their media friends, are going to be going light on him. They're letting his crimes fall down the memory hole. And a large part of making sure that Harvey Weinstein's crimes are out of sight, out of mind, is by making sure we're reminded of Bill Cosby and R. Kelly and whomever else. The black media is taking the hard line with everyone because we're not children and we're beyond the point of any of these slow Negroes thinking that they're going to have it all their own way until they get their butt in a crack, until white supremacy comes for them, and then all of a sudden they're going to be coming to us hoping that we're going to be cheerleading for them. Hell no. All these Negroes out here thinking to themselves that they would hit the lawsuit lottery, that they would coast to a life of comfort and wealth over the dead bodies of their loved ones. We told you the white supremacy was going to turn off the spigot. And that's what Botham Jean's family's finding out. Yeah, they thought to themselves that because Amber Geiger got convicted, that, oh, they're going to be getting themselves a check from the city. City's like, hell no, we ain't cutting you niggers no check. And we told you they were going to be stopping the paychecks real soon to all these dumb Negroes. We were telling them real quick, you better get your mind off of trying to get some payout from the city, trying to find a way to hit the lawsuit lottery and start worrying instead about making sure that these race soldiers go to prison. Botham Jean's family figured to themselves that they were winning the goodwill of the powers that be in Dallas. I wonder if that's the dumb advice that Sleaze Merritt and Mushmouth Crump were giving them. Well, that didn't pan out. Now what are they saying? Ain't got nothing to say. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes, as the saying goes. All of these go for self Negroes. Yeah, what's happening is you're making yourselves into real easy targets for white supremacy. White supremacy is going to pick you off, and we will let them. Bill Cosby is being used as a proxy for black people in America, specifically black men. And the lesson to be taken away from this ongoing white media offensive, a lesson that will be totally lost on these well-to-do Negroes. The lesson of Bill Cosby's incarceration is that Bill Cosby thought that he was an island unto himself. And now he is an island, a deserted island.